Okay, so we got a little teaser on alienation. Not too long here, but I do want to cover what Marx means by alienation, what the different components are, etc. So just pretty briefly, but Marx talked about four different types of alienation, and he thought about these different things. So alienation from the product, from others, from self, and from the species essence. And these are all components of alienation that we experience as individuals under or through capitalism. So as anybody within a capitalist system, we are experiencing alienation from these different things, right? And Marx theorizes them pretty extensively. When he's talking about alienation in the first place, I think a lot of us have heard this term and we think of it in terms of like isolation or separation, right? Being alien, being foreign to something. And so Marx is really talking about how people become dominated by and separated from their own creations. So what does he mean by that? Well, we're alienated from the product. So when you look at this little alien over here, very funny, Mitch Francis, good one. He's saying, I wish I could afford one of these TVs I'm making, but I can't on minimum wage. And so Marx thinks that under capitalism, yes, we can have this innovation, we can have this specialization, we can see Taylorism and efficiency really working for the capitalist, but you've got people on these assembly lines who are creating these huge TVs or whatever it might be, who are looking at the product that they're making and saying, man, I wish I could have one of these. So it feels almost like hypocritical, right? Because somebody is sitting there constantly all day making something that they themselves can't have, right? And in the past, anything that you made was yours. You were only making things for yourself or your family. And so we've now become separated from the products that we actually work on with our hands from a day-to-day experience. So we've got that component. We've got alienation from others, and this alien is thinking about wanting to spend more time in relationships that really matter. But as we work in this wage labor model, we are essentially becoming machine-like. We are doing this repetitive task over and over and over again because, again, we're supposed to be as efficient as possible. So we start to see other people as things, right? We're not only alienated from others in terms of the relationships that we wish we could be spending more time in. So again, going back to these feudal times or even more tribal times, right? People spend a lot of time with their family or with their tribe or their community, and we were all working on things together, and so we were spending time with each other. But in this factory work, again, during the time that Marx was writing, factory work was really the industry that was developing. People are not able to spend time in those relationships. They have to actually go out into the public sphere. So we're leaving the private sphere, going public, and doing the same repetitive task over and over. And so as you become more machine-like, you see the other people standing in that line with you also as machine-like. So you're able to almost compartmentalize and not really think of that person as a person, but just someone as something who is supposed to complete a task. And I think that psychologically, we could all see how that distances us from the humanity behind it, right? And so there could be consequences to that. There's alienation from the self. So this alien is saying only a few more mind-numbing hours before, for the man before quitting time. So what Marx is really arguing here is that when we become more machine-like in this capacity, we start to forget that we are human beings who are deserving of more. And that's sort of the simplistic way to put it, but this alien is kind of content, like, okay, I only have to do this for a little bit longer and then I get to go home. And Marx is saying, no, like, don't think of it like that. Like, think of it think of how good your life could be as a human being if you didn't have to work for the man in the first place. But Marx thinks that we've all sort of been duped, right? With the social construction of money and the value that's put behind that, we think like, okay, this is our only opportunity. This is the way I make that money. So I can do this for a couple hours, but then I get to go really do the things that I actually want to do. And Marx is like, why has society developed in this way? Why can't we always be doing the things we want to do? Okay. And that leads us to the alienation from the species essence. And this alien, it kind of links to the alienation from self, but he's saying, I don't even know who I am anymore. I wanted to be a dancer, right? And the species essence to Marx is what makes us human. It's this concept of needing to create, needing to act in a way that feels right to us as human beings. And again, in this factory line setup, we're not really acting like human beings. We're acting more like machines. We're just maybe doing one small task that we focus on for 8 hours straight. You know, maybe we get 15-minute breaks built in there. And Marx thinks that that's not what it means to be human. He thinks that what it means to be human is to experience art, to make music, to dance, right? To do all these different things that when we are so tightly structured by the work that we do, we can't experience those different, more human, more sensual aspects of ourselves. And you know, I think a lot of you have maybe experienced something like this. Probably many of you have worked in part-time jobs where you know that during that time you can't just do what you want, right? Even if it wouldn't harm the business, even if it wouldn't be destructive in any way, you're facing these social norms and these pressures from that institution itself that disable you from being able to just do whatever it is that you feel like doing. And we've all kind of been structured by that in different ways. So anyway, these are the reasons why Marx thinks that capitalism is a bad thing for us as individuals. And I think that it's easy to see how that sort of bleeds out into society at large. These questions I had in here from a previous semester, I don't have them on your worksheet, but I do think it would be kind of fun to think about. So what do you think Marx would say to Adam Smith about specialization? What does Marx think about specialization? What does Marx think that that does to us as individuals versus what Adam Smith thinks that it does to us as society? And then what would Marx say to Simmel about capitalism's influence on social relations? Remember, Simmel thought it was good for us to be strangers from each other. Does Marx think that it's good for us to think of each other as strangers and to be distanced in that way? Not social distancing, different things. But right, what would Marx say to this concept that, you know, it's good if we're separate and we don't have to rely on each other for these more sort of human things in our lives. Okay. That's all I have for capitalism. Next up, you're going to watch The True Cost. So I will show you how to find that in a subsequent video.